What if there was a universal formula to beat any team in Siege? This was the fundamental question I asked myself back when I was a coach in Tier 2 Challenger League. And when I theorized an answer, my team went undefeated that stage and used the answer of that question to win the entirety of Challenger League in 2022. My name is Coach Fett. I recently built and led Beast Coast to win the Manchester Major 2024, and today I'm going to teach you the Siege game theory that took me to Pro League. Let's get started. So when people generally think of esports, they think of two categories: aggressive or passive, gun skill heavy or strat heavy. The problem as a competitor is that can't be the case. If I want to switch between one or the other on a dime, how do I know what's the right choice to make to beat the other? So there had to be three, and I immediately thought of the game rock, paper, scissors, because there's always a right answer in this game. 3 is the smallest number, the simplest system I can make that can answer this question. So I began to think of how I could classify teams in Siege esports into these three categories. I chose these three categories as pace. So scissors is fast, aggressive Siege, in your face. Rock is super slow, super baity, super punish Siege. And paper is a good medium pace, really default bog standard textbook Siege. I'll go more into this later, but essentially scissors and rock Siege are kill oriented, whereas default Siege is objective oriented. It doesn't necessarily play out this way, but I'll go more into it later. And this was the original simple formula I came up with. Fast Siege beats default Siege, beats slow Siege, beats fast Siege. So obviously there had to be concrete evidence within the Siege esports pro world at the time to back this up. The best teams I had, for example, at the time were these Brazilian teams. W7M was our fast, aggressive scissors team. They're not on Asperia. They won everything in 2023, legends of the game. Liquid was our paper default team. They got legends in the game like Paolo and Nesk, absolutely insane, and have been around since forever. They know how to play the game correctly. And FaZe was our slow, punishing team, completely comfortable with executing no matter how little time was left. And at the time of making this theory, which was 2022, you could see in the head-to-head matchups for that entire year, FaZe always beat W7M. They only lost one game in stage 1 to them, but W7M won against Liquid most of the time. But then it completely flips when you see Liquid against FaZe. It was like this really consistent rock, paper, scissors formula that fit based on the archetypes of paces each of these teams played. So how does this work? Well, I try to think of like an in-game execute example, and it made perfect sense to me when I did. So say you're setting up and defending the bank basement bomb site, and the enemy team comes in, breaks the default wall, and goes for the plant as usual. The default response to this will be sitting in the smoke position lineup and just throwing a smoke to deny the plant. Right there on defense, I just played paper Siege. But let's think, what's the counter to that? If our smoke is just focusing on throwing the smoke grenade, the attack's counter is to sprint through all the way deep and kill the guy sitting there, twiddling his thumbs and holding out the smoke grenade. So if I'm attacking and I see this warden, I get enough info on him to see that he's, ready to throw a C4 to stop plant playing box standard plant denial Siege, I can flood super deep into site, picking the scissors aggressive option against his default option, and therefore catching him with his pants completely down. But say I know through prep that the enemy loves to flood deep, well, I'm going to play super passive rat in a corner and play to stop the deep flood. I'm not going to care about objective at all. I'm going to play rock Siege to beat the scissors aggressive Siege. I'm going to play passive. But say I'm attacking and the smoke is now proning in this corner. He's playing against the deep flood, anticipating our team's deep scissors flood. He's playing rock Siege. You know what he's not doing? He's not throwing a smoke lineup to stop the plant. Therefore, I can just go play default Siege and just plant the bomb, and there's no way for him to stop it. And well, if the enemy's just posted up on default positions, paper positions, planting the bomb, well, I could just play scissors Siege and aggress onto them, swing out aggressive and stop the plant, catch them completely off guard. So I hope all those examples on the execute of basement bomb site on bank give you a little micro idea of how in-game these different pacings actually end up beating each other. So to reiterate, paper Siege versus default Siege, it's the stuff that people always preach to you about. It's medium pacing, box standard, textbook Siege. On defense, you're meant to layer off the roam, layer, play time, fall back, and then eventually play to stop the plant with your C4s, Goyos, or whatever the hell you have left after you waste all that time. On attack, it's linear entry pass, usually with active drones like you're taught. Take default control if you need vert control, whatever control you need for plant. One of the most common default execute positions you'll see is this Oregon basement execute position, where you take tower tower control, you get on the back tower stairs, you take meeting, you drop the hatch, you have E-box control, and from here you can cut off, you know, the rotate and the hallway. You have a guy outside elbow, you know, he might take into elbow, he's just chilling out here, and then you can just plant on this door. They can't see you from freezer door. Your guy's locking down the hallway so they can't come here. He's also locking down this angle, and there's a box in your default position. And if the enemy's playing Rock Siege, if they're out of smokes, if they're out of C4s, they're kind of screwed, right? If they're just playing in these passive positions, waiting for you to push too deep, well, they're not actually moving. They're just gonna get the bomb down, and they have a perfect post plant, and you're screwed. Default Siege relies on basically just the strength of the execute itself, how, you know, good the attackers are at, you know, utilizing their time, getting to the map quickly so they don't have nothing left to execute. They can wait out your smokes, and then just being able to shoot C4s, cover each other, and be up and have all the util they need to execute. And for defense, it's just having enough util to stop execute, right? Wasting enough time on the roam, having the C4s, Goyos, and whatnot in the site ready to go when it's time to fall back and play the objective at the end of the round. But what would counter paper siege? Scissor siege, aggressive siege. If I'm a defender, I walk out elbow, I aggress onto the guy holding out here, I get that pick. Now I have ability to retake E-box control and contest backside control. If I'm the pillar player before the enemies come onto me, I'm gonna go ahead and walk up the staircase and try to go for an aggressive pick on this guy, maybe having his Grim Launcher out or he has a flashbang in his hand, and I catch him off guard to counter that. So that's scissor siege. It's fast, aggressive siege. On attack, it's super fast entrance. It's deep floods on execute. It's outpace and catch the enemies off guard. On defense, it's something called powering, which essentially is if the attack has their bodies in a stationary spread position, instead of letting them swarm you and get around you, you throw all your bodies at one side or like one person of the push. The most common example is this on Clubhouse CCTV site when the enemy breaks open the plat wall and they want to go for a split push after, which means they come onto this side of the map and they'll get logic control, master control, and kind of pinch you from both sides. Well, then to stop this kind of just default control take, you can get your teammate that's holding garage, get your guy that's holding top red, and swing and power this guy on the plat rappel or wherever he's holding from, hoping to trade out and kill him. Once you have this control, well, then you have this CC control back to kind of stop. You have more dominion and space to move around to kind of put a wrench in the enemy's plans. Scissor siege relies on catching the enemy with their guard down. Well, how would an attacker counter this? Well, maybe they play even more passive. Maybe they play so far out that they can't die to a garage run out or any of these runouts, and there's no way they lose any of these gunfights. Sure, if an actual execute is going down, this guy wouldn't be any useful at all, but if he knows you're gonna run out on him, he's gonna scoop up all the freebies onto your team and win against your scissor style. This guy is playing Rock Siege. And Rock Siege, which is really slow siege, is essentially just baiting. I'm gonna be real, it's really just baiting, but it legitimately works. FaZe, Dark Zero, and Empire, when they used to be Empire, top the regions for the longest time, simply just playing the slowest siege around, because guess what? People make mistakes. Even on console, you guys know people just run at you. If you just play passive, you probably get a freebie just sitting there being patient in the round. So an attack, it's sitting outside the building, baiting to punish spawn peaks, runouts, and then once you get in the building, you're holding for your flanks and swings. And on defense, it's ratting in corners, anticipating deep floods on execute. So kind of playing for the deep push, playing to not get detected, playing to get the person who's a little less careful, and playing too aggressive. One of the most common examples of this is border. People just sitting outside the building on attack. Because running outside on this map is so powerful to defenders, it's not a surprise that there'll be just a guy sitting behind the AC unit here on this balcony waiting for any runouts. Maybe there's a guy upside down rappel over here waiting for a guy to try to take top east stairs or take a gunfight on it. Y'all know these souls are super common on armor. You just got a guy upside down rappelling here waiting for someone to swing out either through the CC door over here or through these holes. They're probably over-aggressing out of that stuff all the time. Rock Siege relies on the enemy mistakes to win. So instead of peeking people who are just baiting outside the building, waiting for me to give them a freebie, well, I could just do the box standard thing and just fall off and reinforce fountain, and the attackers aren't gonna know what to do, because guess what? Their team identity is based off just punishing your aggression. You force them to the end of the round, and you don't give them any picks, they might start to struggle a little. But Fett, they can just take the map control you just gave them. And that's the beautiful thing about this, is guess what? Teams aren't perfect. Teams usually rely on one or two things to win. Go back and watch the games in this era. Astralis relied on being super fast and catching everyone off guard to win their rounds, being explosive. Put them in a slow, grueling execute situation and they'll likely fold. And regardless if they did do that, if they took the map control fast off you giving it to them, they would be choosing the correct option. They would be choosing scissors, fast-paced siege to beat the paper choice you just made. But you're kind of right, because at the end of the day, this was my 2022 game theory theory. It ended up being outdated, way oversimplified, but most importantly, lots of outliers. So what I mean by outliers are dependencies and edge cases, and still a good way to think about the game, but you have to think about the niches, the niche scenarios, and the complexity that it can really bring to the game. The most obvious part of this is that different people on your team, based on the player they are or the positions they play, will simply just have different pacings. On Skyscraper, on an office over clear, your players that actually have to entry into office might play a more aggressive pace like scissors or paper because they actually have to get in the building and make progress in the push. But your cut players holding the enemy fall off from that entry might be way more passive. They might play rock siege because they're in stationary positions, and there's lots of places where the enemy can just run out of to punish them sitting here. Another example is individual pace mix-up, where basically the entirety of your team is playing one pace, but you have one guy playing another to throw a wrench in the system, to be the tempo breaker on your team. The most common example of this is lurkers, notably Benjamin Master for G2 at the 6th Invitational 2023 and Spoit for Rogue at Berlin 2022 was extremely successful strategy where the rest of their team were playing kind of their own game, but these people would always get in the map within 15 seconds off a prep drone and be ready to wreak havoc at any time. This kept the enemy on their toes. They couldn't just expect slow or default or really grueling gameplay for the entire round because there was a guy in the building every single round at the very beginning. They had to be ready for that every single time. It threw a huge wrench in the system. In Dark Zero's bank attack round versus Astralis at the grand finals of the Charlotte Major 2022, Canadian called a round where he knew Astralis loved to fly around the map and rotate to pressure and power people with Scissor Siege. So he solo took a shield into server to fake a plant, drawing all the people to him, and then his team was able to take map control super fast off that and go for a bog standard clear. There's also between round pace mix-ups, and a big part of the strategy of the Beast Coast Manchester run 2024 that we employed, we as a team would have rounds where we would do lightning fast pushes, lightning fast rushes, blazing fast, go in with blitz and do everything super fast, and then slow the hell down for a lot of the other rounds. Imagine you're a team that just got rushed twice in a row. The next couple of rounds, you'll be on your toes every single round. You wouldn't bring as much utility, you'd bring traps. You would sacrifice your setups and just stop the rushes. And now guess what? Now we can just take our time. You don't have any more utility anymore to hold the map, and we can just take that map control from free off of you. Pump fakes are a great way to draw aggression or a predictable response. Maybe just sitting outside the building is enough to bait. Maybe you have to throw a couple yings and the fake a sight rush, get people start running around, and then you can punish them running around on site. A really good example of a pump fake is MAD versus SSG Consulate during the North America PC Pro League, where one round they faked the CEO window plant and took admin control off of it and just flipped the entire push around. In another round, they started the admin push, but then had a solo guy go in and just plant on the CEO side, knowing that SSG would run to whatever side that they were pushing. I don't know if I got the order of the rounds mixed up. Dapper, you could, I don't know, I'm sorry. Whatever Dapper plays on the screen. But also this huge map and operator dependency that plays a role in this as well. Chalet, Cafe, Border, and Bank are maps that hugely swing the pace that is played if a zombie is banned. These maps all have large areas in the map that can be cut off simply by an attacker just opening a window outside the building. A zombie, guess what, allows you to block off these windows, giving you space to move. But if a zombie's banned, well then attackers could just open up these cuts, as we call them, that cut off the entire map and just sit there for the entire round but still be super effective. So you'll see a lot of faster paced scissors teams play really well on these maps when a zombie is up, but the moment a zombie is banned, they'll likely lose due to not being able to move around as much as a team that's really proficient in stopping execute and sitting in their death spots. There are a couple of niche cases where you can really take advantage of an enemy's tendencies to really beat them out on gambles. One of these really effective ones is time trading and routing late on defense. So a couple teams attack really slow. One of these examples is FaZe Clan. So back in the Manchester Major, we will be able to equate drones and time as a valuable trade that we can give our lives for. And because of that, we were able to string together rounds where we were basically clutching in the last seconds 2v5, 1v3, 2v4 where we gave up bodies and it looked like they had it in the bag, but because they take so long, we just rat and clutched up the round. And people can say, oh, it's luck, it's whatever, but is it really luck if it's happening over and over again? One of the most popular examples of this is Astralis placing top 4 at the 6th Invitational 2024, but with 4 out of 5 of their players going negative. That's right, their scores were horrible and they were dying out in all their games, but they were clutching round after round after round after round after round. Look at their 1vx stats. This is all 1vx. They had 10 clutches, 5 clutches, 3 clutches, 6 clutches, 5 clutches. Sure, you could say it's crazy luck and it's crazy coincidence, but is it really coincidence if it's happening round after round after round after round? I seriously don't think so. People love to discredit our win at Manchester because, well, Shaiko had an awful performance. But if you look at all our matches as a pattern, star player not doing as hot, supports and IGLs on top. The game to make that major back in North America against Dark Zero. Your superstar Bolo not doing too hot. At the bottom with their star fragger Pambazu, support player and IGL on top. The grand finals against M80, your boy Spoit is not even at the top. He's not, like the rest of his team, I don't know, Kino, their support players at the top. This is a different team that I coached. In 2023, a different team that I coached against OXG. And Newers at the time was a juggernaut. He was going absolutely insane. This team just got 3rd place at Invite, literally the last event before this NA stage, and we knocked them out of playoffs. And look at Newer's stat line. So the teams that I coach consistently make star players fold. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I think that's a system thing. Systems like if the enemy team's like running to the building super fast, then you spawn peek as a counter-pacing strategy. So I hope this video gives you a good idea of what game theory in Siege at a super high level looks like. Once again, full disclosure to any pros that have interest in this video, I consider this game theory outdated. Like I personally considered like living by this game theory as a core principle was just losing and trolling, but I think this rock paper concept was a really good starting point for multiple of my teams to get into thinking of the game deeper than just a surface level. And guys, theory is theory. It's not actual law and principle. That's the thing. It works in theory. It's all a gamble. It's not perfect. That's the point of game theory, is that, you know, obviously there's like best moves to make. It's not necessarily the best move to make, but in theory it'll win against a person who also isn't perfect. But yeah, I hope this gave you more insight as to what game theory is in Siege. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you guys would like more educational videos like this one.
Oh, but it's so funny when it comes up and says, never know, Fett's fucking capping. That shit never happened. It's so funny.
It is funny. It is funny. Do it on a different video where I'm actually capping, bro.
Well, you are capping, because it never happened twice in a row.
Oh, yeah?
It's something that M80 is, you know, all teams could definitely flaunt with.
Who are you calling right now, bro?
I think the biggest thing about that last round for me has to be the fact that they take their time. Who are we calling? Right? They try and add in that secondary layer to their strategy.
Kino.
Make sure they not only have that verticality cover, but also have.
You did back-to-back fakes on SSG CEO, right?
The effective backside of the
you guys like back-to-back fakes, fake CEO plant, fake admin take against SSG, right? On consulate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one round you faked one to the other, and then you did the other to faked one, right?
First, on the first match we did the default CO take. So on the first time on the second match, we took admin, and we faked that we were doing admin take. Then we just marred into CO and planted. And then the round that they went CO right after that, we faked that we were doing a CO, which like plant straight away, and we repelled in like admin window and planted blue.
You went Amaru into admin window though, right?
Yeah,
well, actually, he was also Amaru on the first one.
Me and then Dave walked up the stairs, or fucking not Dave, sorry. One of them walked up the stairs, and he pushed to get kills, and I planted.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to prove my editor wrong. Thank you, Kino. Love you.
Got you, guy.
Thank you. Mwah. Yeah, suck my dick, Dapper. How about you suck my dick? How about you suck my dick, Dapper? Dapper, how about you? You ever thought about? How about you? Dapper, how about you suck my dick, Dapper?